It's the morning briefing on POTUS SiriusXM 124. I am Tim Farley. Along with Team Farley, that would be Jennifer McClellan and our associate producer, Brittany Hunt. Celebrities, it's always an interesting thing to see who lines up with whom. It was interesting, too, to note that when Ronald Reagan was president, he came from Hollywood, so he had a lot of friends in the industry. Not so much you would have thought for Donald Trump. Maybe he would have more, but it doesn't seem to have played out that way. But are they really a factor? Well, our next guest thinks it could be this time, especially. Bernard Whitman is a former Bill Clinton and Michael Bloomberg pollster, a Democratic strategist, founder and CEO of Whitman Insight Strategies. He's tweeting at Bernard Whitman and is with us. Bernard, welcome. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
You prefer Bernard?
Bernard is awesome. Well, I don't want to say that, but the name is.
That's okay. You can toot your own horn. It's fine. I was noting with celebrities, typically, speaking of tooting their own horn, people think of them as self-centered. They say, okay, Hollywood is so focused on Hollywood. It's the liberal elite. Why should we pay attention to them? But it seems to me from what you're writing that maybe their function is a little more this time than just being advocates for policy, and that may make a difference.
That's true. I mean, what we're seeing in the survey that we did is celebrities, particularly people like LeBron James, Cardi B, others, are really having actually an effect. And I think part of this is because the trust in institutions is so down and people are so scared, worried, and find huge credibility gaps in so many of our institutions, particularly Donald Trump. And you have Donald Trump tearing down signs, tearing down all the institutions that we're typically looked to in a health crisis. And people are saying, you know what, these celebrities are not simply acting out of their own self-interest, they're acting out of sort of caring for the planet. And these are people that individual Americans, everyday Americans can actually identify with. And people are saying, typically we hear a lot of screams and squeals on the right, stay in your lane, whether it's, Colin Kaepernick in the NFL, LeBron James in the NBA, or all sorts of musical stars. But people are saying in this day and age, when trust is at an all-time low and compassion really needs to sort of be increased, they're looking to celebrities and saying that these people are actually making sense. And I think people, in particular young people, are going to be particularly swayed. And some of these stats, I got to tell you, some of these stats are incredible. 75 million people have already voted. That's over 55% of the entire total of people that have voted last time, 137 million Americans. We are on track for an historic turnout, probably over 150, some people say 155 million people will vote. And one of the incredible stats that I've seen recently is that 1 in 5 voters who have already voted this year did not vote in 2016. That's 20% new turnout versus last time around. That is incredibly encouraging, and I think it should be something to be cheered for anybody who believes in actual democracy.
To your point about the celebrity factor, I wonder, I was thinking back to I remember 1968. I'm an older guy, so I remember John Carlos and Tommy Smith raising the black-gloved fists at the Mexico City Olympic Games in 1968. Jim Brown was out in front, not so much when he was a football player, but afterwards, and he was a sports figure. But I think today, in some ways, there's a difference between even the time when you were working with Bill Clinton from today, is that there's much more of, I don't know, maybe because social media, there's a personal connection in some ways to some of these individuals. It's not so much just about, I see this person as the musician. I see this person also as somebody who talks about, I mean, if you just talk about Chrissy Teigen and her recent problems, with losing a baby and how she shared that with so many people, there's a different kind of relationship between individuals, meaning voters, and celebrities than there was maybe even 10 years ago.
And not only that, Tim, the reason for the difference is it also has to do with the channel, the opportunity, the ability, if you will, for celebrities and their fans to connect one-on-one, to connect directly. And sure, people say, well, they're just using these social media tools as outlets to get their message out. But it feels very personal. When I can go onto Instagram and I can almost, if you will, interact with Chrissy Teigen, or I can go on to Snapchat, or I can go onto TikTok, or even Facebook or Twitter, and feel like I'm actually having a conversation with these individuals. They're talking to me, and I can respond, I can share, I can amplify their message. You feel a whole different type of relationship, and you feel that these people, they're not politicians, but I think people are glad that they're not politicians, and they welcome their involvement. They understand that the people's vision is just beyond what they happen to be doing in their professional life, whether it's music, sports, arts, or other types of entertainment.
Bernard is awesome. Whitman is with us here on POTUS, and we're talking about the celebrity factor. He is the CEO of Whitman Insight Strategies. Bernard, I was thinking also, though, there is typically a political risk if you are going to decide to become, or that's actually a business risk for a lot of celebrities. You could be if you will, you could be blacklisted or you could be shunned by other members of the community. But if you adopt causes that are more in tune with, say, the quote unquote liberal Hollywood, you're not going to have that same kind of problem. In other words, if you're a conservative right now in Hollywood, your factor is much lower when it comes to persuading people, it seems, and we hear a lot less of them. Talk a little bit about that aspect of the celebrity factor.
Well, it's funny. I'm reminded of one of my favorite quotes, which is often attributed to Reagan, but I think it's true, or maybe not attributed to, but talked about in relation to Reagan. That is, the fish rots from the head down. And so if you're a conservative, an activist, and also celebrity that wants to espouse your opinion, you're absolutely fully within your right. But the problem is the head of your party is spouting out lies and spouting out hate and spouting out disinformation, not seen as trustworthy, not seen as credible, seen as a liar. And so, unfortunately, you're going to be tagged with trying to cut through that BS and change the conversation. And you're going to be tagged with all of the nastiness and all of the negativity that is associated with the person you're trying to support. I mean, we did a poll also which examined not only celebrity, but looked at, what are the first words that people think of when they think of Joe Biden? What are the first words that people think when they think of Donald Trump? And overwhelmingly, the first word that comes to mind when people think of Donald Trump is liar. When Joe Biden is mentioned, it's honest. And so you see the celebrities are sort of reflecting that. And so, I think God bless. If you're a celebrity that believes in conservatism and in the way that Donald Trump is running the country, then go ahead and speak out. But you can't blame your fans or the rest of the public if you get knocked for that, because you have to take responsibility for what you're actually advocating.
As it stands now, but then again, this is the question: is whether or not there is a risk for a lot of these individuals. It's not really risky to go out there and call President Trump names because he calls a lot of people names. So, but you kind of wonder down the road if this will continue.
Well, look, you look what happened to the Dixie Chicks, and this is going back, 15 years or something like this, with George W. Bush. But I think celebrities are also saying, you know what? It's more important than my image. This is more important than a short-term hit. This is more important than potentially, people boycotting my concert. This is not only the future of our country, but it's the future of our society. It's the future of our democracy. It's the future of how we relate to each other as individuals. And the time to put some unity back in the United States is long past.
Yeah, a lot of people, a lot of radio stations wouldn't play their records. A quick question: which is better, more acceptable, Dixie Chicks or Chicks?
Well, I think the Dixie Chicks have in themselves gone into the Chicks, so I happen to, love the South, no downside to the South, but I think that they felt some pressure there, so let's just go with the Chicks.
Yeah, all right. That's what they want, so we'll call them. If you ask me to call you Bernard, I'll call you Bernard. If you say Bernie, I'll call you Bernie, but we'll go with what they say.
Well done, Tim.
Bernard Whitman, thank you for joining us on POTUS today.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
The Celebrity Factor. Bernard Whitman, former Bill Clinton, Michael Bloomberg pollster, Democratic strategist, founder, CEO of Whitman Insight Strategies, tweeting at Bernard Whitman.